if I could go back in time and speak to my old self when I was around 40 pounds heavier than I am right now, when I first tried to lose fat and go on a cut phase, then there are 3 things that I would tell myself to avoid and stay far away from, right? And so today I'm going to talk about exactly 3 things that I would not do if I was trying to lose fat and get leaner. And it's just purely because I've made all 3 mistakes over and over and over again, and it cost me a lot of time. Also impacted my mental health a lot while I was trying to lose the weight, just for it to not even work. Okay, so the first thing, just hopping straight into the video, the first thing is that you shouldn't set your targets or your goals to be way too ambitious, right? The reason is a lot of people, they set very ambitious goals because when they set the goals, right, of like, yeah, man, it's January 1st. It's always January 1st, first of all. Everyone gets that motivation, like new year, new me. First of all, just on that point, like, it's kind of ridiculous of you to think that you're going to change your life in the span of like one night just because the calendar year changed, right? If you thought that you can change your life in the span of one night or one day, when you've literally been the same person for the last 12 months, it's kind of idiotic at some point, right? And so apart from that, people always just randomly cross the year or at the start of the year, whenever it is, they just get this surge of motivation, and that's exactly when they set their goals. That's low-key like the worst time to set your goals because you have so much more expectations than, let's say, if you were whatever, depressed, sitting on the couch, you've just had such a bad week, right? You're going to be so rock bottom that you're not even going to feel like setting goals because you don't feel like you're capable of anything, right? But like when you're on top of the moon, you just feel like, you know what, I'm going to change me. You watch a motivation video at 3 a.m. in your bed when you should have been sleeping, right? And you're like, yeah, man, I'm going to get a 6-pack. I'm going to get to 10% body fat, right? And you set this goal. I'm going to lose 30 pounds in the next 2 months. So 15 pounds a month, right? Which is about a pound every 2 days. First of all, ridiculous, right? It's doable, but not if you've been the type of person who's been gaining weight for the last few years, right? That's just not the person that you are. So it's just not realistic. It's doable, but the chances of you doing that are maybe 0.5%. And so how about set a goal that's higher in like terms of like the odds of you actually achieving the goal. That way you can actually get leaner, even if it means doing it slower. Cool. So the most realistic goal for most people is about around a pound of body weight a week, right? Maybe a bit less if you weigh less, but if you're like, let's say 200 pounds, then yeah, around a pound, because it's around like 0.5% of your body weight. So losing around 0.5% of your body weight a week is a good way to start if you have not been used to losing weight, right? Or actually doing it consistently and actually sticking to your caloric goals every single day. Cool. So that's the first thing. Go about 500 calorie deficit a day because it's going to amount to 3,500 calories a week, which is the calories that's burnt when you get rid of 1 pound of fat. Cool? So, yeah, just stick to 500 calories a week. I've freaking gone through diets where I'm like 1,000 calorie deficit a day, 1,200, because I'm like, oh, doing the math, I can get to the goal more than or less than half the time. So instead of taking 16 weeks, I'm going to take 6 weeks. Okay, cool. Sure, that sounds nice. But what are the chances of you actually sticking to the 6-week goal of literally 1,200? I'm like, what would you eat? At that point, I'm eating like 1,700 calories a day for someone who used to weigh 225 pounds, right? And used to exercise, get 10K steps a day. It's just ridiculous. It's doable. I'm not David Goggins. Cool. And even David Goggins, I don't know if he would sustain that for like longer than 2 months, right? Well, I mean, he did say that in his book, but the average person, let's say, right? You need a lot of motivation and consistent motivation every single day in order to actually stick to such a diet. Okay? So generally just stick to 500 calories of a deficit per day. And once you've done that for like 3-4 weeks, you've lost around a pound of fat a week, maybe a bit more because some of it will be water weight. Cool. You're going to get a bit of motivation that, okay, at least I'm sticking to this. I've lost 4 to 5 pounds in the last month. And then if you want to up it a little bit, go to 600 calorie deficit a day, or maybe 700. Don't exceed 750. Even that's around like, it's a bit on the higher end for most people. But if you've been someone who's consistently been failing their diet, just stick to 500, right? It's going to be a bit slower, but you're going to enjoy your life more. You're not going to be as energy depleted. You still will be fatigued. Like, your body is like signaling a lot of hunger hormones because it doesn't want to use its fat stores. Regardless, just trust me on this one. From my own past experiences, stick to 500 calories a day. Cool. Once you've actually completed a fat loss phase successfully, then the next time you go into a fat loss phase, which first of all, if you're like successfully gone through a fat loss phase, that means you've gotten lean. And then let's say 4-6 months later, you want to do it again. You realistically should not have gained that much weight because you've gotten lean. And so you've either maintained or like slowly bulked up, right? So you should not have gained more than 10 pounds of fat. Cool. So your next cut phase should not require much effort, not as much as this one, because you've already been lean. And then at that point, since you're more confident in yourself of actually executing a fat loss phase, then you can ramp it up a little bit. Cool? So that's mistake number 1. Mistake number 2 is just, I wish I didn't punish myself for the days where I did not stick to my calorie goals or my macro goals. Okay, so I used to do this a lot where like I'll stick to my diet for that day, like literally 100%. Perfect day. And then the last 2 hours of the day, I'll have like 150 extra calories or 200 extra calories. And then for some reason, like the next day, even though I know I only had maybe around 200 extra calories, maybe the scale went up by like half a pound or 0.4 pounds or 0.6 pounds, around there. And then even though I know that like I didn't have that many more calories and that like theoretically I was still losing fat yesterday, right? Just seeing the number on the scale would just piss me off. And I would go that day maybe eating like 600 calories, doing 3 hours on the treadmill or like Stairmaster, and then I'd think, oh, I'm making up for it, so now I'm losing fat even faster. What were the results of that though? First of all, that day felt absolutely terrible. Like literally would do my cardio and my training and whatever, and the rest of the day I couldn't study, right? Because I'm a student, I have other things I need to do in my day, and that probably applies to most people. You have work, you have school, whatever it is. You have family, you have friends, so you don't want to be drained the whole day just because you're trying to lose fat. You don't want your life just to freaking fall apart just so that the number on the scale goes down, right? So yeah, I would feel terrible. I wouldn't want to talk to anyone. I'd like just get angry randomly because I couldn't control my emotions, or my impulses, right? And so yeah. And then guess what? Sure, the number would go down the next day, but I'd be so fatigued that my hunger hormones would spike, my sleep would get messed up, which would mess up my hormones and my hunger even more. So my appetite would just surge the next few days. Guess what? I would freaking binge and eat like 2,000 or 3,000 extra calories in the next few days. So it did more harm than good. So I went through all the suffering just for me to even eat more than I would have if I just treated the next day as if it was normal. And so even if you go 200 extra calories on one day, honestly, even if you go an extra 2,000 calories, generally trust me on this. Let's say you're supposed to eat 2,500 calories, right? And you're in a 500 calorie deficit, and one day randomly, for some reason, you got hungry, you couldn't control yourself, you ate an extra 2,000 calories, let's say. Like, worst case scenario, right? 2,000, 3,000, whatever the number is. I want you to treat the next day as if nothing happened the day before. Go into the next day, be like, okay, what does my app say today? Okay, 2,500. We're going to eat 2,500. Don't be like, okay, so I ate 2,000 yesterday, so I'm going to subtract it from today. So today I only get to eat 500. Or I'm going to do 3 extra hours on the treadmill to make up for it. And this and that. And I'd go in the sauna for like 45 minutes just to sweat off extra water weight. Like, come on. You're doing all of that when you could have just been more patient for 4 or 5 days. The weight would have came down slowly. Because most of it is water weight. And you know that. You're like not that scientifically illiterate that you don't know that a lot of the weight on the scale is going to be water. Like, you can see it in yourself. You just look more extra bloated, right? So it's like food content in your gut and a lot of water weight that adds up the number on the scale. And so it's only minimally any fat, right? And since you're in the deficit for the rest of the week, you're going to be fine. All right? But it just helps to be in a lot more normal calorie deficit, like we said in step 1. That's going to also reduce the chances that you're going to binge eat. And therefore, you're going to have to punish yourself less. Anyways. And then the third thing that I wouldn't do if I was trying to lose weight is that going into losing weight or like going into a cut phase, I wouldn't really have the expectation that my life would necessarily get better or like my problems would all be solved if I just became lean. I used to really have this notion that, oh, like, yeah, once I get ripped, once I can see my abs and whatnot, and I look like those Instagram models, then my life's gonna be perfect, right? All my problems will go away. Like my mental health issues, I wouldn't have this body dysmorphia or just like a lack of self-esteem in any way. All my insecurities would go away. And then turns out that like most of my problems did not go away, right? And just the fact that I had this such big expectation led to such a big disappointment. There's just notions that like the gap between like your expectation and reality basically results in the amount of disappointment that you get. And so if you just lowered your expectations, you're gonna actually lower your disappointment. Cool. So instead of expecting that, yeah, I'm gonna like be this perfect, confident, lean guy, right? Once I've lost all this weight and like whatever, everyone's gonna look at me and think my life is perfect and I'm whatever, gonna be like rich and handsome and successful and this and that. Like, basically most days you're still gonna be insecure about your body, right? You're gonna look in the mirror and you're still gonna be like, oh, I wish this was better and this was bigger and this was leaner. Like, it's never gonna really go away. I think the only thing that you gain from getting lean is, first of all, you will get some sense of increase in self-confidence. But if you're always comparing yourself to someone who looks bigger, especially on like social media, then that problem doesn't even go away much. But second of all, you're just going to feel more energetic. You're going to feel more healthy, right? Once you've lost a lot of weight. Honestly, no, if you get too lean, like whatever, sub 9%, then a lot of people will just feel crap, right? You're going to feel like your hormones will tank, your energy will tank, and it's like, okay, I'm doing all this, but I still feel like crap. But you want to get lean enough to a point where you feel like you look good, but you also just feel energetic. Like, it doesn't feel like you're carrying so much weight around. You're energetic. You feel like you can play your sports again, and your endurance goes up, and you can do cardio and not feel gassed out because you're carrying an extra 50 pounds of weight. And so those aspects will definitely improve. I'm not gonna lie to you about that. But some people just think that like generally all their problems will be solved. Like all their like they're gonna get more friends and gonna be more popular and this and that. Like maybe, but if you're gonna have such a big expectation and then it turns out that doesn't help you, which it doesn't for most people, right? Like, it's just gonna lead to such a big disappointment once you've gone there, and you're not gonna cherish all this progress as much as you actually should, right? Whereas honestly, most of the joy that you should get, or most of the joy that I did get from losing a lot of weight, was that I just started to like myself more for the type of person that I became, and just looking back at the type of things that I put myself through, right? And so not looking at the end product, but just like comparing myself now versus whatever 6 months ago, a year ago, 2 years ago, and seeing all the systems that I put in my life to like actually eat healthy and value health, not just value being lean and losing fat, but also just taking care of my health, like actually whatever, caring about the things I put in my mouth, and actually having some sort of self-control over the food that I eat, right? And just being disciplined overall in many aspects of life. Again, I'm not perfect, but just looking at the progress that I've made, that's where I get most of my joy. So that's definitely 3 big things that I would tell myself when I first started to try to lose weight. And so I hope you generally take these 3 pieces of advice to heart and implementing it in some sort of way. Don't take it too hard on yourself, and just having a more realistic perspective on weight loss, right, is going to make the process easier, more sustainable, and actually more achievable, right? And so if you wanted to learn more on exactly how to lose weight while still staying healthy and actually not tanking your hormones and your health markers, then just click the first link in the description. It's my course where I teach you to do exactly all of that, and hopefully I'll see you there.